Welcome to Groceal Homestead. Today we're going to be using dandelions in 3 different ways. So I love dandelions. I know most people look at it as a weed, but you can actually use the whole plant, which is so great. Use the flower in a couple different ways. You can use the leaf of it, so that looks like this right here. This is great in like a fresh salad. And you can also use the roots, so you can dig that up, dry it, and then I believe grind it and make it like you would coffee. All have great health benefits. You can go right online and get a wide range of list of what it can help with. I am interested this year in doing jelly. I've heard it tastes like honey, all kinds of stuff, but I'm also really going after the heart health benefits. So what we're going to do is just do one dandelion. We're going to pick the heads and then we're going to pull off the yellow part. We're also going to take some heads and then you just cut off as close as you can. Some green is fine. We're going to dehydrate that and I'm going to put that in some olive oil. So that way I can use that in some lotions and stuff, helps with some skin issues. And then I'm also just going to take some of the yellow and instead of making it into jelly, I'm going to dry it. That way I can use it as tea later on. So let's get picking. I'm gonna grab my kids and we're going to collect all the heads, go inside and take them apart. So now we're here in my kitchen. We've picked a ton of dandelions here. I have my jars, some gel sugar as well. We're gonna need about 2 cups of this yellow stuff. So we don't want any of this greenery, this like little bulb thing in the back. You don't want any of that. We're going to just take our time and kind of literally pluck this yellow stuff out, and you want it in the bowl. So it definitely does take some time, but definitely, hopefully, gonna be well worth it. So as I'm doing this, it's definitely turns you yellow, but I'm finding pulling from the middle here gives a great opportunity to then kind of work your way out and makes the process super easy. Now this is my first time doing dandelion jelly. I do, however, love dandelions. I just love how you can use every part of it, how healthy it is for you. They're so pretty. You can make wishes. It's great overall flower. So I'm very excited to get some of this started into jelly. And then I'm also going to take whatever leftover I have in here. I just need 2 cups, but I picked more obviously than that. And I'm going to show you and put that in my dehydrator. And then that I can just put in a jar and make some tea out of it, which I'm excited. I don't have to buy it in the store. I can just dry my own. Okay, so I have my 2 cups. I like to make it mounding. It's not gonna hurt to have a little extra in there. And the directions say that we're going to take 4 cups of water. So I have 2 cups in there. I'm gonna put 2 more cups. We're going to boil this up. Once it's boiling, shut off the heat, add in your flowers, let it cool. You're gonna let it steep in there, cover it, then put it in your refrigerator for 24 hours. And then the next day we're gonna strain it out and then actually do the process to make it into jelly. So while we wait for this to boil, I'm going to show you my dehydrator and how we're going to dry the rest of these so we can store it for tea. Okay, so while we wait for our water to boil to make our dandelion tea, I have a bunch more of this petals picked out. So no problem with some of these, like get the green in there. And by all means, if you see them, pick it out. It is completely edible, doesn't hurt you. The reason why we pick that out is because it has a little bit more of a bitter flavor to it. So If you want it definitely super sweet, be sure to take your time and pick that all out. But here I have a dehydrator. You can find these anywhere online in grocery stores and whatnot. I really like using it. I've used it for fruit and herbs and such, so I'm excited to use it for dandelions. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can always use your oven. I believe you set it to the lowest setting, but again, be sure to check online. And if you don't want to do either, you can take a screen out of your window, or if you have an old screen, you can put them on there, and on a nice hot sunny day, set them out in the sun to bake all day, pull it in at night, and then bring it out again. And you want to do that until they're super dry. The only problem with that sometimes is some of your flowers will go to seed, like, so they'll make into that wish state, which you don't really want. So like I said, I have the dehydrator. I like this style, has removable mesh washable pads to use. So I'm just going to dump this on here and kind of just spread it out. I want it not so clumped up. The thinner it's kind of spread out, the better and quicker it will dry. So I just kind of have it set out like that. And of course some will fall through, that's fine. And then you just put your cover back on, and right here will tell you a bunch of different settings. So herbs, and you can even apparently make yogurt, vegetables, fruits, meats, and jerky. So I'm going to put it to the lowest setting. It says 95 for the herbs, so that's what we're going to switch it to. So here, it just blows the heat on it. Then you just pull it out. As soon as it's crunchy dry, all the moisture is removed, then you can put it in a jar. Sometimes it'll be a little bit warm. I'll let it cool down and make sure it is definitely 100% dry before I put it in a jar, because you do not want mold. So as soon as our water is boiling, which I believe it's close, we'll get making our dandelion tea to turn into jelly. All right, not sure if you can hear, but our water is boiling. So I'm going to shut it off, and I'm going to dump in our flowers, petals here, and just take my spoon here and just kind of stir it around. I want it to be in the water, get nice and wet. And then we're just going to leave it on the stove to cool down. I might actually move it just to a different burner, just in case I don't want anything burning. And then as soon as that cools, I'll put the lid on it, I'll put it in the refrigerator, and then in 24 hours, it'll be ready for jelly. All right, so it's been 24 hours and our dandelion tea mixture here is ready to be strained. I have my strainer here. This is a fun little setup I found at Wadler's. Nice fine strain to catch everything, but less work for my end. I have my rims off the jars. I have my jars washed and they're being sterilized. I'm gonna have that boiling, so I'll just pull them out when I need them. And then also your lids have to be warmed up as well. Just waiting for my canning water to boil as well. So by the time we get done cooking this up, that will be boiling and ready to process our jars. So let's get this straining and see how it looks. Okay, so we have our tea mixture and we're gonna strain it. Hopefully this goes well. Get everything in here, because the directions say to squeeze this, so I love how this strains so nicely. This stand. Our recipe calls for 3.5 to 4 cups of this liquid, which on my Pyrex here we're just below 4 cups, so that's great. Just what we would like to see. All right, now I got that squished down. I'm going to squeeze out a little bit more. I want all that goodness in there. right, now we're going to get this into our bowl and get it cooking. Okay, so now the recipe is going to call for almost 4 cups, but no more than 4 cups of the juice, or tea, I guess you could call this. Once we get that in, we can get the heat going. And we're going to put that on like a medium heat. We need to get it going. And then it's going to call for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And it's always a good idea to use the pre-squeezed lemon because you're getting a consistent acidity when you're doing your jam or jelly. You could, if you wanted, if you're doing like big bulk stuff and you really wanted to use fresh, just get a bunch of lemons and then make one big batch of juice and kind of mix it all together so you have consistency with it. And then it's going to call for 4 cups of sugar. That is one thing about jelly and jam. There is no shortcut when it comes to sugar. So make sure you read your recipes. Some are different. Some have you bring your like fruit or whatever up to boil first and then add the sugar. This recipe I'm following wants to add all this in together and then bring it to a boil. I'm also going to add my pectin in too, it said. And then once it comes to a boil, we're going to let it boil. For around 2 minutes. Okay, so rolling boil is going to be like this. I'm going to start my timer. When you're stirring it and the boil won't go away. You can control your heat. You still want it to boil, just you don't want it to overboil. So the directions said 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. I think I'm going to go or try to go the full 2 minutes. As you can see too, I pulled out some of my hot jars. They're all sanitized, so I have them over on the counter waiting to be filled. So you like to keep everything as hot as possible. And you never want to work with a cold jar either. You don't want to put obviously something super hot into a cold jar. It just risks breakage. So as soon as this beeps at the 2 minutes, we are going to put this in our jars. And I can't wait to see what color. It does look like a pretty light color. I did, in my research, see where some people add some food coloring in. So it's completely up to you what your preference is. But I kind of just left it and interested to see how yellow it actually will be. Okay, so I have the jelly all ready to go, have my ladle, and I also have one of these handy things. Comes in a kit if you don't already have one. And you're gonna ladle it in. Oh yeah, nice light. Oh, it smells though amazing. People did say it tastes similar to honey. I've tried dandelion jelly, but it definitely has the smell of honey for sure. I'm excited. And I'm gonna fill it up a little bit. Don't fill it all the way to the top, just above kind of like the first part of your rim is where you want to fill it. Definitely has a very light yellow tint to it, very pretty. Now I see it's a little cloudy. That's for me really squeezing out the petals. So if you really want more of like that crystal clear look, you just don't squeeze your petals because that's going to kind of push through the smaller impurities. I kind of want all the goodness in there, so I don't mind squeezing it out. It doesn't really bother me that the jelly is not going to be completely crystal clear. Like I said, you want to kind of move a little bit quickly. You want to get everything hot in here into the hot jars, keep everything sterile. And let's see how many jars we get out of one batch. Maybe close to 6 jars, so that's cool. And I'm sure in the back you can hear we have this boiling. You want to just keep that boiling the entire time. Make sure you always overfill it with water more than you think you're going to need. So that way, while it's boiling off, you don't have to worry about like, oh no, it's been boiling for a half hour and now you're low on water. So make sure you definitely add plenty of water in there. Okay, let's make sure all these jars are about the same. This guy's a little lower. All right, oh, this guy needs a little bit more, and then we'll be all set. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do is take a damp paper towel, and we're going to want to just clean off the rims. You want everything nice and clean for your lids to stick on. If you don't, that kind of leaves a little bit of an air gap, and we don't want that. All right, in the little kits that you can find all over Walmart, Target, online, they make these fun little magnet things so you don't have to burn your fingers trying to get these out. So you want to warm them up, not only to sterilize, but you want this rubber to be kind of pliable. That's going to be part of your seal. And again, also this kind of helps keep everything sterile as well. And just kind of like plop them on. All right, now we're gonna have our rims, and these are just gonna be put on finger tight. You don't wanna like really tight them down. So just quick finger tight. I like to use a dish rag for all this, help protect my counters, my hands. I also like to collect them. So I do put them to good use. Ooh, warm. All right, so one last one, and we're going to move them over into the water bath, and that's gonna be for 10 minutes. All right, here we have our water bath canner, very steamy. Just gonna set the lid right over here. And again, this fun jar thing clamps right a hold of your jar, and you're able to set them right in. So you're just gonna set all your jars in here, evenly spaced apart. Make sure if you're only doing 2 jars or 3, they're like opposite from each other. You don't want them right next to each other. This little holder thing kind of helps them from tipping over, lets the bubbles kind of get around them. So that way your jars aren't rocking around. So we're gonna put our lid back on, set our timer for 10 minutes, and we'll be all set with some jelly. Okay, so our timer went off. We're gonna use our tool to pull these out. To kind of pull the water up a little bit. And we're gonna set, again, the jars evenly apart to cool. And I like to just use a towel. So clip all the excess water. All right, we have all our jars out. Now we're just gonna wait to hear them pop so we know we have a good seal. So now that they're out, we're still waiting for a few of them to pop. Be sure though to keep the box that they came in. I like putting the jars back in and storing it, and they don't kind of clang into each other. And also you're going to want to make sure you're going to take off these rims of your jelly jars. If you leave them on, they will rust after a while. So you just leave them off, throw them in a drawer, and then when you're ready to either gift them or use them, then you'll put a ring back onto it so you can seal it, obviously after you pop the jar. But always make sure you pull the rim off. So here we are the next day. I grabbed my jar and the jelly did not set. It is a recipe off of Pinterest, and so there's going to be some trial and error. I didn't think there was enough sugar, so what I'm going to do is reboil it and add another cup or two of sugar to it. I'm going to try a cup, boiling it and putting it in. It could be too that the way the recipe was, putting the gelatin and sugar together, maybe it didn't like that. You're really supposed to put the gelatin in and then add the sugar, so I'm not quite sure. If you're following a ball recipe though, and your jelly doesn't set, don't add anything to it. Just pop your jars, clean everything, reboil it for like the 2 minutes or whatever, and then recan it and put it in your water bath, and then it should set then. I've had that happen like twice, I think, with strawberry jelly out of all things. So don't panic if your jelly doesn't set. Thank you for joining me on Grocery Homestead and making some dandelion jelly. Be sure to go online and see what other types of flour jelly you can make, and we'll see you next time.